All right, so we'll give people a few minutes to show up, but the way we start these sessions is just by giving everybody a question to think about. And so this, like last week, this is a fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. Can I blank with Andamio?
Okay.
And we'll get started in just a minute. And we got a couple of robots. All right, and we've got 5 with 6 people here. That's a pretty good way to start. So let's jump into a check-in round. It's always nice to have something that you can talk about if you're not sure what to say, but the way a check-in round works is it's just your chance to say hello, tell us a word or two about how you're showing up today, and then pass it on to the next person. So I'll pass it to Sebastian first to demo it, and you can hand it off.
Hey everybody, glad for being here. Doing good. Pretty interested in today's topic because there is a kind of convergence, a rough convergence between credentials and the standards, right? When you think about credentials, people think about, okay, this should be part of the specific standard, and sometimes it's not the case, right? Mm-hmm. So pretty interesting on that. Yeah, thanks a lot. Pass it to Newman.
Hey. Thanks, Sebastian. Yeah, I'm feeling good. The weather has sort of turned warm here in New York, and I'm sort of switching into my summer schedule. Nice. And that does lead to some excitement and some sort of tiredness. I went to 3 games out at Citi Field, and 2 were extra innings, and 1 ended happily. The other one did not end happily. Both were extremely cold. But then I'm also, we're still wrapping up things over at Gimbal Labs and trying to get a bead on how we spend the Northern Hemisphere summer months, June, July, August, or May, June, July. So yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like on the ball and going. So I'm pretty stoked about that. Let's see, I'm going to pass it off to Diego. Hey, Diego.
Hi, everyone. New here, pretty excited to join. I could never join because of meetings, but I made the time, and pretty excited to, meet you all and learn more about what you're working on. I'm based in Porto, but I'm originally from Chile, actually. Nice. Been here in the States for like 15 years or so. So yeah, excited to learn more from you guys.
Thanks for taking the time. And passing it to?
Sorry, totally forgot. Roberto.
Thanks, Theo. I'm doing good. Same with Newman. Spring is here, sort of, some days. So which is good. We were getting a little bit of cabin fever, and so there's like it's one thing that's really wonderful about where I live is we have a little park right in front of our house, so we can take Luca, my almost 2-year-old, to have some fun there. And there's like a baseball little field, and I've always been a bit of a fan. My mom, we come from Yankees, so baseball was like. So I'm trying to make my mother happy by making Luca an early baseball fan. Let's see if that works out. He can't throw far, but he certainly has a predilection for the baseball. So let's see how that works out. So yeah, that's fun, and really happy to be here as always. Let me pass it to Harsha.
I'm doing good. A lot to talk about today because like me and Newman have been like trying to do some stuff on Andamio, and I've been trying to do some stuff on Andamio. So yeah, we had like a lot of things that we can talk about. So it's fun, yeah. And I'll pass it to, let's see, who's around. Ian.
Happy New Year, guys.
Ian.
I'm full of energy this week, looking to how I can contribute to the ecosystem, build my life and my business too. I will pass it to
Emmanuel just snuck in.
okay.
Hi, guys.
Hey, what's up? Oh, we got a hey guys from you, but I can't hear you now. We'll let Temasar fix his sound. Adrian, how you showing up?
Hi, guys. I'm doing good.
Hey. All right, yeah, I'm feeling good too. Lot going on. Excited to jump into all of it, and we're all working against the backdrop of deciding how much news to watch, and whether that means global news or Cardano news. But we're building anyway, and it's exciting. So here is today's agenda. Well, actually, let's review this first. So what did we get? Can I blank with Andamio? Can I build a user insights ecosystem? Can I change the world? Can I connect with a community of learners? Can I build a professional on-chain identity? Can I build meaning, skills, and reputation? And can I lead locally? My heart is full by all of these things, and the answer is, yeah, maybe. I think to all of them, depending on the scale we're looking at. But this gives us a nice context. Like last week, this just gives all of us a chance to see how each other are showing up and what we have on our minds. Let me jump over now to the agenda. You can find the agenda right here in the repo that accompanies this course. I'll drop it in the chat just in case you need it. And of course, on the landing page of this project is a list of prior agendas and the meeting link we're in right now. We got some good feedback. A couple of different issues came in. So I want to do a review of these first. Thanks as always. Basically, feedback is the best thing a teacher can get, whether it's good or bad, right? Because it gives us direction and helps us decide what to do next. So we're probably going to want to touch on all of these in different ways today. You'll notice that there's a different scope to each of these questions. So first one, I went to Andamio v2 to quickly see what APIs I can use. but I had no idea where to find that. So one thing we're going to have to do is show people where to find the API docs and how to start using it. So we'll do a quick demo of that in just a minute. A different sort of feedback came in terms of differentiation. This is a teaching word, so I'm always happy to see it. When a teacher differentiates instruction, they're thinking about each individual student and the best way for that student to learn the thing they're here to learn. And as we all know, we all learn in different ways. And teaching in just one style, that doesn't always connect with everybody, right? And that's something you can do something about. One thing we've started to notice and that we're going to keep exploring is that good teaching and good software development have a lot in common, right? So whether we call it differentiating for students or differentiating for different users of an application, those two questions actually have a lot in common, right? When I'm building an app, I need to think about not just the one ideal user who might show up, but the many, many different kinds of users and all the different things that might go wrong and all the different questions they might have. And then I set priorities. So this one is about, some people will come to Andamio to learn how to build on top of it, while others will come to learn what problems they can solve, right? There's a difference between, I'm a dev, what can I build? And I'm just a person with some problems in mind. How can I solve them? And I do think we're going to want to focus on both of those. And so this is a question for all of us to think about how we set priorities. And we're going to come back to this one in just a second. Okay. And then here's some nice just user feedback, right? Using the application as it currently exists. Hey, I just submitted my first assignment. Now what? Right. And there's this weird thing about Andamio where people play a really important role. You just worked through a course, you submitted an assignment, and now, oh my God, you have to wait. You got to wait for another human being to come sign a transaction saying, yeah, I did that. This is not always what people's expectation is right now for applications. We want very quick feedback. And so we should think about in the application, how do we give feedback? How do we give people an idea for what to do next? And how do we celebrate the fact that there's a human on the other side who's going to get to that assignment as soon as they can? But let's turn our attention to this one for just a moment. Based on your experience so far in Pioneers, how would people here describe your orientation? Are you showing up as a dev who's focused on building something, or are you showing up as a problem solver who wants to try to create a solution for a problem, which might involve development, but is maybe a little bit more comprehensive than that? Does anybody have any thoughts that come to mind? Are we devs or problem solvers?
You know, I can jump in on it. This is Newman. I think of kind of, I think it's problem solvers first. You know, my love language is curiosity. That's how I show up in the world. And I'm curious and generally curious about, hey, I have a set of problems. Is this, you know, it's like, I have a lock. Is any of this the key? And that's sort of like, so I think it's showing up as a problem solver and not necessarily in that ready.
Oh, we just lost you right at the end of it, Newman.
Yeah, ready to build. I'm problem solver is how I would answer. Yeah, but looking to become the dev. You know, I like to do these. I like to do these tutorials twice. So maybe the first time through, it's just, hey, what is it? So the feedback might be, is there a section for curious onlooker?
Mm-hmm. Nice. Okay, I'll pass it to Diego and then to Ian.
So I found you guys when I was looking for blockchain projects that were solving something other than infrastructure, right? And so I've been following the work you've been doing, and I find it very interesting because it's very easy to explain to someone who is not in the blockchain or Web3 world, right? And then I started the Andamio Pioneers course, and I realized that there are two very distinct, at least two very distinct audiences you want to speak to, right? The dev who wants to build on top of Andamio, or the problem solver who has some technical knowledge and thinks, oh, okay, I need to learn the system first and then play around with templates and so on. And then there's someone who knows very little about Andamio, but maybe someone else, a friend or a colleague, recommended looking into Andamio because it could solve something. Let's say a foundation who works with a lot of social impact projects, and they want a way to collect feedback or contribution signals from the field, right? Or design a course or have contracts out there. And so that person who knows very little about blockchain and is very scared because all they hear is crypto scams, right? Needs a very different messaging or assignment to like relate to this thing, right? And I think this is inherent to any blockchain project. All of them use language that is very dev oriented because we're building on top of each other. And like it's a lot of tools that we're like deploying and so on. But at the end of the day, if you want people to use it, you need to reach to that person who knows nothing about the tool and doesn't want to know anything about the tool. They just want to trust the outcome, right? So yeah, I left that issue thinking about that user in the future who might want to learn about Andamio, and they might need, maybe an intro course that is all about building trust and not about the technical aspect of it. Does that make sense?
Don't tell me the word blockchain. Yeah, right. Well, and it's fascinating to hear you say that it feels easy to explain. Like, what is the easy message for what we have so far based on your understanding?
I think that because the way you guys are positioned, there are a few different avenues where you can help someone enter the space, right? So you could say, hey, do you know Coursera or any online course platform? So there are alternatives, right? Where like you can actually design a course and own the content, own the process, and also, reward your students directly for, taking your course and so on. It's called that, right? So the online course builder angle is very easy to explain because there's so many references out there, right? I'm in the social impact space, right? And so the other angle that is very easy to explain is, hey, do you have an international project where you have collaborators everywhere and you want to not only compensate them, but also like gather data on their contribution or their insights or their, the data they're collecting? Hey, here's a solution that is very, very easy to implement. You basically set up requirements or learning goals or, project goals, and they just have to complete that. You evaluate, then you transact. Very easy to explain. Does that make sense?
It's really exciting. Yeah, thank you. It's great to know that part of the story is coming across, and we still have our work cut out for us in making sure to tell that. But that's a dream come true to know that we can spend this space kind of figuring out, right? And as we all start to build things on top of Andamio, that's why Andamio exists. We have this chance to tell that story in different ways. So awesome. Thanks. More to come on that. Ian, how about you?
I'm into the blockchain space because of the ideals that crypto crypto shown, like the cypherpunk ideal and there's no need for an intermediary to be your own bank, and borderless transactions, because those were the really big pain points from where I I am standing. Through the journey, I became a builder, so I was looking to build something that could, like, the way you have American companies like Dodge, which are intergenerational, and you could sleep for 300 years, and when you wake up, you're going to see a Jaguar or a Dodge. Um, I started looking into how I can build something of that scale. So started upskilling, learning Solidity, and through the journey, I deployed uh, an NFT minting solution for music that solves an existing problems where Kenyan artists they don't normally get their royalties on time and as they should get them, because there's an entire chain of intermediaries between them and the fan. But I figured that distribution is the key. Like, you can build something, but if you're only 10 people in the world using it, it will not make much of a difference. So I realized that another problem we have in crypto is putting the word out there the same way that's been highlighted, but also not just to, like, people who do not know what crypto is, like people who know what it is, and they don't know that it can make a difference in their life in a certain way that only them they need. So that's where I'm at, and I am overwhelmed because I also recently stumbled upon a paper that said in any market in any market where you have competing entities, most of the market share is carved up by the top two. So in the case of prediction markets, you have Kalshi and Poly markets. Now I'm like, wow, the first two, and when you're building and you're not in America, and you also need to put the word out there, it's a lot, man. That's why I come here every single week, so that
I'm trying to draw a picture
because
in my head of these intersecting problems.
yeah, that's where I'm at the moment.
Yeah. Thanks. No, and it's I completely agree. One of my favorite people to talk to right now is the person who knows exactly what crypto is and wants no part of it. And we get to be part of the story that says, well, yeah, we don't like crypto either, but have you heard about this blockchain thing and what it makes possible, right? And you start that story and it can end up in several of the places, Ian, that you just named. So let's build for that, right? Rather than, I could go on and on right now, but I think what's really exciting is we get to build into this space together with some of these shared goals. I want to do a quick progress check. So there's questions here that we'll come back to in just a minute, but I want to jump back to the Menti for just a second. I'm going to copy the link again for anybody who needs it. Here it comes in the chat. And take just a moment right now. I want to know where we're at in terms of the first few learning targets of the 103 module. So this one is kind of soft. Explain, right? Explain what the app template provides. When should you fork it versus when you should build it from scratch? It's okay if you don't feel like you understand this one yet. I'm just curious where people are at. So would you say you're completely lost? Got a lot of questions? starting to get it, all the way up to understanding and being able to teach it to somebody else. We'll do a quick assessment there. Yeah, I would expect some folks to be completely lost at this moment, so that's okay. And this just gives us a snapshot of our progress so far. We can compare it next week, how we're making progress. I'm going to give you another 10 count just to drop your vote in. Ooh, nice. We have a pretty even distribution. All right. And what we're going to do over the next few weeks is really dig into each of these learning targets. So they start to get more practical. I'm going to turn the page and same drill. Can you fork, clone, and configure and get the app template running locally? We got to see Ian do this 2 weeks ago. We got to see Newman do this last week. And based on our experience so far, where's everybody at on this one? Take just a moment to throw yours in there. Nice. This is kind of a two-headed distribution. We got some folks who are lost, some people who are getting it. So we'll make sure to support and get people up and running on that one. Let's do one more. There's a total of 6 learning targets in module 103. But I'm just curious, has anybody used the agent skills yet and the slash commands? Same question. Nice. More people with questions on this one. So that might be something that we want to look at. Good. So this might end up being a focus today. And I'm going to switch back over to course itself. And this is a picture of the next 3 learning targets. So we just self-assessed on these. There's also a getting started skill. There's choosing the right skill for the job. And then there's logging issues and feature requests in the GitHub repo. We'll come back and self-assess on those. Hey, Nori.
Hey, I have a small window, thought I'd hop in. And while we're talking about AI agent skills, just curious, do people need Claude, or can they use like a locally hosted model or other ways of using those skills? Yeah.
Excellent
How are we building that out? Because I know not everybody has access to Claude. Yeah.
Let's take a quick look at the template as it currently exists. So this is the template referenced in those learning targets. So if you're not sure how to do learning target 103.2 yet, right, that's this one: fork, clone, configure, and run the Andamio app template. This is what we're talking about. I'll drop that link here as well. And the way it's set up is to use an agents.md file and a .skills directory. And this is following the approach that's outlined. Show you this set too, in case you haven't seen it. Because if you've used Claude, you might be aware of Claude's treatment of skills. But what a consortium of different providers have done is built a standard called agent skills. And the idea is that these ought to be able to work with any LLM, right? Whether you're running one of the big ones and paying for a subscription, or you're running one locally. This is the emerging standard for building skills. So when you pull this repo down, you will see, I think there's still a Claude file here. No, it's not even included anymore. Good. Okay, so yeah, we're down to just the agents MD file, which does work with Claude, but it should work with other agents. And we have a generalized skills directory. And each of the skills here follows, I'll show you in raw format, you can see we have front matter at the top of a markdown file, and then details inside. And this is the format that's specified by agent skills here. Does anybody have any questions about that structure? Now, if I jump back over to learning target 5, which we haven't assessed on yet, where it's asking, can you identify which skill to use? This is one place where you can get an overview. These are the included skills. So this one will help you understand the authentication system and how it works in Andamio. This is a good one for just opening up the app and running for the first time. This is the /getting started skill. And it takes you through an orientation, helps you make sure the dev server is running. And then it leads you through a little exercise where you make the template your own just by changing the colors, right? It's a good place to start. And then the idea is once you know how to change the colors, then you can get a little bit more adventurous and start ripping the whole thing apart and making it your own. Okay. Any questions about that? Yeah, Ian.
I'm getting to understand Andamio more and more, and for now I'm wondering who is the ideal person we are targeting to use the platform, both as a teacher and as a student.
Excellent. So there's a two-part answer to that. The ideal person to use the app platform that's live right here is somebody who's trying to understand Andamio for the first time, whether that's as a problem solver or as a developer. But our real goal is to make this app irrelevant soon, okay? Our real goal is to launch an ecosystem of developers who are building different things on top of Andamio. Now that calls to mind the other feedback we got, right? So let me go back to the agenda. Oops. I'll go this way. And I want to go back to this feedback here, right? Here's somebody, this is Harsha. I wanted to build so I can see what APIs are available, but I had no idea where to find that. So I want to really zoom in on this one for just a minute to make sure you know where to find the APIs, because it's one thing to have the template, and we will go deeper into how the template wraps those APIs in one particular way so that they're easy to use in a React stack. But maybe you don't want to build with React. Maybe you just want the APIs. Where do we go? Let's take a look first at the documentation. Okay. So Newman took us through the Hello World last week with the Getting Started guide. We looked at how to create an API key. But what about actually exploring the API itself? Okay. And that one, this is the same quick start. Okay, yeah, this shows you a couple of calls, okay? But this is not your reference yet. And here, okay, so there, we could probably put this link in a more prominent location. And we probably want, do we have the reference? Yeah, there's a link to the reference. Nope, that's just environments. Here's the API reference. But yeah, we should make this link a bit more prominent. but this is the direct link to the full documentation of all of the endpoints you have access to once you have that API key. So I would say two things. One is start here and just make sure you can do a couple of basic queries. And then it's a matter of really starting to play with the rest. Yeah, Harsha.
So I wanted to give a little bit more context. So I was already logged into the app because that's where my API key is, and from there I was trying to figure out where it is that I need to, where can I find the docs, where can I find the references and stuff like that. And then I was lost.
Okay, so from the app, as a developer, I just got my API key. I should have a better onboarding or kind of call to action for where to learn how to use that. Okay. Cool. That's good feedback. We can do that. Just to give you a quick overview of what's going on here. Okay. What's a little bit, what requires a little bit of a new mental model is thinking about how authentication works, given that Andamio API is meant to be used across an ecosystem of applications. Okay. So what you'll see, I'm going to go to let's go to a student action. And for example, list my credentials, right? This returns the authenticated student's full credential record. Now, who should be able to see this? From the API, this endpoint is for a particular student, a particular access token holder. And we need to know who that access token holder is. At the same time, we also need to authenticate that the developer of some application has access. And that's why you can see in the query right here, there's two different auth headers. Okay, one of them is for the API key. This is the thing we've looked at generating from the Andamio app. And we saw this the last 2 weeks. And once you have that, great, you store it as an environment variable, you get the template up and running. But then there's another header required on the majority of requests, which is for authorization. And this is the authorization of the specific access token holder who is connecting to your application. It doesn't get set as an environment variable. It gets set when an access token holder connects their wallet to the app that you've built, right? So there's these two layers of authentication. And then once the user is connected to your app and they have their authorization, they'll get their particular credentials or their particular commitments, right? For an example of an endpoint that doesn't have that, we can look in the course discovery section. Getting a list of courses only requires an API key because anybody can see the list of courses. And there's a lot you can do with just we call these the public endpoints, right? As long as you have an API key, you can build lesson content into an app. But once you want to start serving individual access token holders, that's where that additional layer comes in. How much sense is that making? Okay. The auth skill that we looked at a moment ago in the template guides you through this. It shows you how authentication works in the template so you can start to build your own system. But a really interesting thing happens here, right? If somebody becomes an Andamio access token holder by going through this application, they're going to be able to log in to any application that any of us build. And as a developer, you get to decide what they're going to have access to. In this app, for example, they get access to everything, right? You can browse all public courses. You can browse all public projects. You can create courses and projects in the studio, and all of this functionality is here. But maybe we don't always need all of that, right? And so one example that I've shared already, but is the Cardano XP site, right? This is still just on pre-prod, but this doesn't give you comprehensive access to everything on Andamio. It gives you access to one project and one course. That's all. And that's separate from the template. That's a decision I made as a developer to say, hey, I'm going to add an environment variable that says you can only look at this project in this app. You can still connect with your access token holder. And by the way, you can actually view these courses that's on preprod. So if I go to preprod.app.andamio, and if I go to browse the courses or the projects, what you'll see right here is there's this course that says give feedback on this app. It's owned by Cardano XP, right? These learning targets right here are the very same ones that I'll see right here. When I want to go to contribute, I first have to complete this course, and it's just one module. There's the same 3 learning targets. Same data. This is using API calls that all come from here, right? This focused app is just limiting what people can see. And that's a choice you can make. So what questions does that raise for people?
Oh, that was cool to see. Yeah. What it brought up to me was that, oh, look, here's a Andamio course that's not in Andamio. That's not residing in the front end of Andamio. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, it's still coming into focus. You know, that fist of 5, I'm in the 3 zone. As far as like what authorization means, I mean, I know what it means. I was listening to what you just said, but in order for me to, something about my brain, I really do need to do it and fall down a few times with it, and then it's like, oh, okay, you know. So yeah, I'm looking forward to working with that concept, with my hands.
As Newman has said, it's a headless app, and to reiterate on that, it's the end is it's open-ended.
That's correct. And look at where this goes next, right? Somebody who gives feedback on this app or completes, gives feedback here. It's the same assignment. It can still be done from here. Doesn't matter where you get that credential. But at some point, somebody in the future could say, well, here's this project, or here's this course ID. This course ID is just an NFT, right? You can find it on preprod.cardano scan. And this course has only one credential right now, right, for this set of learning targets. But once somebody earns this credential by doing this assignment here or by doing it over here, then the builder of the next application can choose if they want to give some privileged access to the holder of that credential, no matter where it was earned, right? So I'm excited to see what happens. We did one proof of concept with that idea over at Gimbal Labs with the DREP platform, right? That platform is unlocked when somebody has the Getting Started at Gimbal Labs credential.
Well, but I think it's not even the full getting started at Gimbal Labs course, it's the first SLT.
Just
so
one? Yeah.
I think that's so yeah. So it's to the SLT granularity that you can give access or yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Right. So I can say, well, yeah, in the future, maybe there will be several different credentials that somebody could earn as a feedback provider, right? Maybe there's 3 or 4 someday, right? But as the next app developer, I could say that only the first one matters to get into my app. So we're starting to build up a mental model here, and this idea of composability is really important to the design of this whole system, right? Whatever credentials emerge on this network become what can be used for anybody else who then continues to build, okay? And I'm optimistic that this has something to say about that monopoly problem, for example, that Ian was naming, right? This is going to be community-owned infrastructure that people can then decide how to use it moving forward. So we'll take that app feedback. Harsha, thanks for clarifying that. We need a better call to action once you are in the app and you have your API key point you to the right places. We have this one is pretty straightforward to try a solution to, and this is a question we'll keep revisiting over time. Let's jump over here now. Did anybody get stuck running the template and want to do some troubleshooting? Or did anybody try an experiment that they just want to share out about right now? So far, so good. So this is our 6th session out of 10. And so we're going to wrap this iteration of the Pioneers program at the end of April. And we'll start a new one soon after that based on feedback and what we all decide to do next. But I'm curious, now that we've got 4 sessions to really start sinking our teeth into things together, what are people looking to get out of this? Okay, so we did the Menti already. So I can infer some answers from right here. Building user insights, changing the world. Yes, please. How? Right? Connecting with a community of learners, building professional on-chain identity, building meaning, skills, and reputation, local leadership, right? Keep those things in mind as you think about this. What should we really zoom in on over the next few weeks? Who's got ideas?
I've got one. I'm hanging out for others though, because I can talk.
We rely on you for that. It's good. It keeps things going.
I really want to build, and Harsha might back me up on this. Like I really want to build the thing. And it's funny, I've done this before where I don't particularly care, and maybe this is my issue. Like I don't care about the thing, but I want to be able to point and say, look, that's the thing I did. And so I think it was Nori that asked, is like, or one of those first mentees is like, hey, look, just imagine you know everything you need to know about Andamio. What would you build? And just sort of off the top of my head, I said, I want to do something on the logical fallacies.
Yeah.
And I want to have an SL, and and immediately sort of thought about doing a course. So I think in the next 4 weeks, I want to build a course. Like that's what I want to do. If not the whole course, the first where I'm started. And yeah. And I guess I started that with the template. I already have, now I realize, oh, I've already got it. So there you go.
And so is the goal, like you're saying, you have this course in mind, and is the idea to build a dedicated app for just that course?
Well, now that I see this headless app idea. I think that yeah, I didn't imagine it that way, but I guess if I have the template and I can host it somewhere, it could just look like Andamio. It wouldn't be necessarily on the Andamio mainnet app.andamio.io, but it would be on newmanshosting.io, well, the logical fallacy course. Yeah, and to be honest, even though there's a lot going on, I feel like that, especially, and this has got me very excited about the agent-based sort of stuff, meaning that I feel like I could get a passable thing in there and then start iterating over it. And yeah, because the 12 logical fallacies are not, some obscure coding thing. It's a very well known and established context. So the agents, I'm assuming, will be able to put together something that would work, and that people would be able to go through the lessons, and then to express. I guess this is another thing, like I've always, you don't have to take a course like it's been given to you. You can trick it out. You can customize it. You make it like you want it. You can give it the exact tone that you want. You can change the superficial things, but then the real important things. I think they could be really cool.
I'm excited for that one. And even as an exercise, I would encourage you to try to build that standalone thing. But then one thing we can also look at is, hey, what about leaving Next.js behind, right? And trying to get this functionality working. That's another thing that I know you and I have been talking about for a while.
Absolutely.
I'll pass it to Sebastian.
Yeah, if there's no more ideas, to be honest, I would like to get or I would like to a version of this template, but for the business people from these SMB organizations, these small organizations that have some community in charge, and they want to know how to implement blockchain in their own locally, but they don't have the grasp or a complete understanding of how blockchain works. Right? As simple, I'm convinced that hands-on experiences, project-based learning experiences, are the best way to understand something. And for these people, because not talking about the people in the projects, but the people leading the projects, they have some kind of skills, technical skills. They can take a repo and fork it in locally. They have no problem at all with that. But I would like to see some kind of repo or some kind of template that can facilitate this kind of process of how they can implement Andamio in their locally, and that same process replicated into the members of the project locally. Yeah, in that kind of environment, I'd like to see something like that. Yeah, thanks.
And that's a content question, but it's also a design question, right? Like, what would a template look like if it was for this particular audience versus that one? And that's a matter of, design, and that word taste has been thrown around, but it's the one I'm thinking about right now, right? Like, what kind of taste is baked into a template or a demo that connects with this audience versus that one?
You can think of different use cases, right? These business people have different necessities, but those are specific, and you can count them with those are specific, right? Sometimes it's about transparency, sometimes it's about onboarding, sometimes it's about creating traceability on payments, something like that. So there are several, but those are specific. So maybe we can build different kinds of templates. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Very nice. And Ian.
The use case I'm thinking about is in the education sector, where you have teachers, they need to prepare a lesson plan basically before every term or semester. And what happens is the material doesn't change unless there is like a radical shift in the curriculum, which is maybe once or twice every generation. And somehow in my vision, I see Andamio, the tooling itself, providing a way that they can keep a record of this boring, monotonous work that is repetitive over the years, and they can focus on like providing individual support to the students where they have maybe problems understanding or catching up.
Man, we know that monotonous work firsthand from keeping courses up to date at Gimbal Labs, and I think that's a very interesting place to be thinking about. I'm really sorry to share. I have to jump off because I got pulled into a different meeting right before this, but I want to just show you guys one more thing that I didn't have time to deploy. But here's another template. Like this one's not Next.js. And so this is a new PBL course for Aiken developers who want to learn how to build on Midnight, right? And what it's trying to do, right? It's, again, this is just a tiny little application. It's just one course. It's not even doing Andamio projects. It's not built on Next.js, but it's going to be focused on building the course together. And so this is something I'm really interested in, to exactly Ian's point. So I'll ping the Discord server when this one is live so we can start playing with it. But I think it's really interesting to treat a course as something that's going to need feedback and revision from day one. And we have, as Midnight launches, we have a chance to think about this. So I'll share the source code for this as well. So people can start playing with that. But you can see we can get really boring. It doesn't do much. It's very, very minimal. Okay. Hey, I have to jump to another meeting. It was thrown into my calendar like an hour before we started here. So sorry for the late notice. Happy to keep this room open, but I think this idea of building the thing is really what we should be focused on for the next 4 weeks, right? Weeks 7 through 10, like Newman said. So homework, think about the thing, right? If you were going to build one first thing, whether it was based on courses or projects, whether it's a combination or just one or just the other, think about how much time you want to put into the content itself and how much time you want to put into the app design. And I think we can spend the next few weeks really looking at what people actually want to do, giving each other feedback on it, and learning as we go. Does that sound okay?
Beautiful.
That's the direction we're headed. Sorry to cut it short today, but thanks you all for being here. Stick around if you want to, and see you soon.
Ciao.
Thanks all.